2 months, 30 days, just about, until probably one of the most important elections of our lifetime. We're probably going to be saying that for a little bit longer. Just listen, for clickbait purposes, every election is the most important election. And for making the world a better place, every election is the most important election, because you need to make sure that you get out there and change the world for the better. There are lots of people who want to make it worse, who want to make the lives of the people who you love worse, who you care for, people that you may not know, and yourself much worse. They're called Republicans. It's important for you to do the least amount you can do and at least vote them out. But 2 months until the election cycle. We've been talking about this a little bit, and we released some videos a little while ago about how the Democrats and Republicans are faring, things that are going on, and how we talked about this should be a wave year for Republicans this year, where they are supposed to be taking back the House and the Senate. Both of them have the smallest margins of control for Democrats that any political party has had in the last 30, 40 years or something. It's been a really long time. With that being said, it seems like their fervent need for bloodlust and the destruction of other people's way of lives, their massive amounts of censorship that they're doing on a government level to people who they do not deem are worthy of being able to talk about their existence. We talk, i.e. gay people, i.e. trans peoples, all of these things. But one really important thing was the Dobbs decision that the Supreme Court laid down, that the Republicans have been working fervently for the last 50 years to finally overturn, so they can force 6-year-olds to give birth to children that their uncles put inside them, because that's something that's really important for them. With that being said, we talked about how that and other things that are going around the country have been turning heads for a lot of political analysts, because even though it should be a wave year for Republicans, it seems like it's not the case because of their need to do all of the things that we listed previously, and their complete inability to put forward a view of America that's anything better than abominable, reprehensible, and atrocious, and them clinging to Donald Trump's leg like an abandoned little kid. People are not voting for their party in the way that it should be. And actually, it could be a Democratic year, a big Democratic year. And things are getting so bad that they may not be able to overcome it come election season coming up in 2 months. Now, I highlight how it's going to be just 2 months until the election, because a lot of conservatives, ever since we made our last video, have been doing something that I can only describe as a disappearing act when it comes to their views on the Dobbs decision and reproductive rights moving forward into the future, because a lot of them have been just doing their best to dodge questions. They have titanium, they have adamantium ankles. How they've been bobbing and weaving questions on reproductive rights has been nothing short of genuinely impressive. But it seems like they can't keep it in their pants for long enough to wait that extra 2 months to be able to bring out their most horrid political positions after the election, after people have already chosen their politicians, because it seems like some of them have taken the initiative to make the situation for conservatives even worse, because earlier today, Lindsey Graham has proposed a 15-week ban on this type of contraceptive. Wild. And not like one for a specific state, one for the entire country. A lot of people have been talking about how the Dobbs decision was going to open the door for Republicans to, and it's been more than 2 minutes after the beginning of this video, so we can say the word now. Abortion ban nationally, how they're going to be pushing through a national abortion ban the second that they get power. And it seems like our boy, Senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, has taken the initiative to make sure that Republicans are deemed the 12-year-old incest baby party, because he just can't possibly imagine making this anything besides an abortion referendum on Republicans, which I think is a great thing. They were going to do this anyways. If there is going to be a time for them to do it, I would love for them to do it before an election. And this has got a lot of other Republicans who are his allies really angry, and it's pretty funny. But I want to talk about this a little bit. Okay, 2 months before an election. And while a lot of conservatives are trying to pretend that they don't want to make sure that 13-year-olds have 20 incest babies by the time that they turn 18, they have decided that it is important to come out with this now. The reason stated for why he believes this is that it's important to do it now is to gain some sort of structure. He thinks the reason for why Republicans were doing so bad when it comes to the election recently and polling is not because people realized what they wanted to do, but because people didn't know what conservatives wanted to do. And it could be possibly the worst. Who knows what conservatives could possibly be wanting to do if they get power? And so he said, let's just tell them exactly what we want to do. We want to make sure that your prepubescent daughters are at the most risk of forced birth possible. Because that's like an amazing thing that people want on their minds going to the ballot box. And that's definitely something that people would like to think about when it comes to the election. I think that's something great that we can finally pin down. And so instead of it being they're definitely going to do it because they're the Republicans, they're demons. Now we know, now we have an actual law to say we know for a fact they're going to do it. One of the top caucus members has put through a law saying he wants to do it. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina introduced legislation on Tuesday that would institute a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, reigniting the debate on an issue that Republicans have worked to confront before midterm elections, in which abortions have become a potent issue. There's no chance that Schumer is going to bring it up for a vote, but what Graham hopes is that if they're able to win the House and the Senate in this coming election, that he'll be able to ram it through and make sure as many children give birth as possible. And the proposal quickly divided Republicans, splitting their leaders and reflecting on difficult politics of abortion in the party's wake of the Dobbs decision. McConnell, the funniest thing is that this is so bad and so poorly timed that even McConnell has had to come out and be like, I don't know who this guy is. I've never even seen this before. Listen to this. When pressed on the details of Graham's bill, Mr. McConnell sought to distance himself, saying you'll have to ask him about it. Wild stuff. Yeah, he sucks his head into his shell the second he gets asked about this, because he knows things are going bad. Just so you know, McConnell has been doing a lot of work with the GOP's financing arm, and McConnell has specifically pulled money from Pennsylvania and pulled money from Arizona because he knows that those places are not going to bring him Republican senators, right? And so he knows how bad things are going on for a lot of Republicans around the country, especially statewide Republicans in a lot of places. It's not looking good. Actually, we haven't touched on it, but remember when I said a lot of people saw, if you follow the community tab on our YouTube channel, the main YouTube channel, I said that we need to be watching the Alaska election because there's a high probability that a Democrat could win. And a lot of people weren't talking about it, and then it happened, right? Because of how bad Republicans are these days and how bad their image is. We may need to watch Idaho, because Idaho's looking a little sussy-wussy for Republicans winning it again. The race is a little closer than a lot of people would like to talk about, but we'll do that at another time. We'll be talking about that at another time. But hey, listen, also, so both of my garbage, doo-doo ass, shitty tier senators, McConnell and Rand Paul, came out today and said that and wanted to distance themselves from Lindsey Graham's abortion bill. But with that being said, I want to not just tell you what was in the bill. I wanted you to listen to what Lindsey Graham and the witches, the hags, had to say about the abortion bill, because they can explain it in their words better than I can, and then we'll talk about it.
Welcome, ladies. So this makes me look better already. So we're trending in the right direction.
I've gathered the 17 dumbest bitches I could find to support me, so I look like I don't hate women. You love to see it.
I just went from a
Today, I've gathered all the women who I could find who have passed menopause, so they literally can't give birth anymore, to talk about why we should be forcing other people to give birth. Hey.
big tech hearing to little babies. That's what I like about my job. What do you do about Twitter? What do you do about the unborn? That's why I like the job so much. So here's what I think we will be doing about the unborn. We will introduce legislation, I, along with a lot of my colleagues, to basically get America in a position at the federal level I think is fairly consistent with the rest of the world. Can we? We have charts. Shows you how serious we are. All right, 15 weeks. A baby's at the 15-week period. What does that mean? Well, it means if you're going to operate on the baby, which happens, to save the child's life, to provide medical treatment, the standard practice in medicine is to provide anesthesia. Now, why would you do that? You provide anesthesia because the science tells us at the 15-week period, the nerve endings of the baby are pretty well developed and the child feels pain. So here's our point, that if you have to provide anesthesia to keep the baby from feeling pain to help save its life, should we as a nation be aborting babies that can feel excruciating pain from an abortion? Here's what I think. I think we should have a law at the federal level that would say after 15 weeks, no abortion on demand, except in cases of rape, incest, to save the life of the mother. And that should be where America's at. And what would that mean if we adopted that position? The next chart. Where are the chart people?
So here it is. It has come. It's only taken, what, a month? 2 months? For them to, what, 2-3 months for them to finally do it? He's been putting this together. He's been waiting in the wings with his claws and his sharp talons and his gnashing teeth, waiting finally to get a hold of the rest of the country, to rip it apart and push through as many forced births as possible. So it's finally come. Pretty sure fetuses aren't being tortured. They're not. They are not. And also, I would like to tell you something. I would like to disprove this. Lindsey Graham is a failed lawyer and a garbage politician, but in the massive repertoire of things that he is, none of those things are a actual doctor. And so what he's saying is just a lie. Okay? What he's saying is just a lie. Even though they do have nerve endings, they are not fully developed and not even necessarily very well developed. It is very curious that he would say this because, well, actually, I'm sorry. I don't want to say that it's curious. It's not curious. Lying about this position would make it feel like he has a real position instead of him just wanting as many 13-year-olds to be giving birth to rape babies. But the science is pretty settled on this. So this is from Live Science. Science shows that based on gestational age, a fetus is not capable of feeling pain up until the 3rd trimester, which is beginning at 27 weeks. So just so you know, okay, this bill would be almost half of the real time frame that a fetus would be capable of feeling what we would consider pain. And now there's a problem with what like pain really means, and would they be able to process that pain, and like the difference is what is pain versus what is suffering, right? Because some things can feel pain, but some things cannot suffer, right? Because that's really what we talk about when it comes to like should we make something feel pain? How much pain would be like reasonable? Because like pain and suffering are two incredibly different things, right? The reason, yes, plants have pain receptors. Plants can technically feel pain, but plants cannot suffer, right? And that's what we were supposed to be stopping. It's not necessarily pain, but suffering, right? Because technically, if you take like a steak, right? Like an uncooked steak, that has nerve endings in it. It does, technically. And if you can like take a little bit of electric and you run some electric through the steak, it'll twitch and quiver. Sometimes it'll even moo and bark. It is wild. Trust me, this is real. You don't have to look it up now. You're supposed to be watching this video. Pay attention. That meat can technically, literally feel pain. It's true. It can happen. but it cannot suffer. And so this is a big thing that these people lie about. And not even on the pain front can they even make a case for this, because this is just lying, and the lying gets worse.
If we adopted my bill, our bill, we would be in the mainstream of most everybody else in the world. I think there are 47 of the 50 European countries have a ban on abortion from 12 to 15 weeks. And I picked 15 weeks, which is a little longer than Belgium, Germany, and Spain.
Here, 1 second. I wanted to show you his shitty graph. I want to show you his shitty graph. No, where is it? I want to see it. Nobody recorded it. Not a single person, not even his own YouTube channel recorded the graph that he made. Not even he recorded it. I'm going insane. I'm losing my goddamn mind. Okay. All right. Never mind. All right, I guess we don't get to see it because nobody recorded it. Not PBS, not CNN, not even Lindsey Graham's own YouTube channel, not ABC. No one. Not Fox News. No one. It's that bad, I guess. But anyways, the graph is supposed to hold a bunch of flags of other countries on it with the like his proposed idea of what their abortion bans look like.
So we will be introducing this bill as of like right now. People will join. I hope it will be bipartisan, and we will have a debate, if we're allowed to bring it up, as to why we're doing what we're doing. Abortion is a contentious issue. Post-Dobbs, America's got to make some decisions. And the first thing I would say about the Dobbs decision is that abortion's not banned in America. It's left up to elected officials in America to define the issue. You have states have the ability to do it at the state level, and we have the ability in Washington to speak on this issue if we choose.
I would like to let you know, and this is going to sound wild, a lot of people are going to get mad at this, but it is a factual statement. Any law in America is not set in stone as long as the Republicans, for any civil, legal, personal, any right that you have, any single right that you have is not set in stone. Everything from who you can love to who you can marry to if you can and cannot be a literal slave. None of that is set in stone as long as the Republicans, especially modern day Republicans, are in office and have the power to make changes on laws. Nothing, not a single amendment, not a single right, not anything that you have that you call freedom in America is safe as long as conservatives exist.
I have chosen to speak. I have chosen to craft legislation that I think is eminently reasonable in the eyes of the world, and I hope the American people. At 15 weeks, pretty much strong majority of Americans believe abortion should be the exception, not the rule.
So I would like to hear, let's listen to a little bit more of this. He's going to talk a little bit more of this, and then I want to switch over to something, but editors, do your thing.
So we're going to have an election in 2022. The inflation report today was
incredibly
in my
fucking
view,
cringe.
bad news for the American consumer because inflation's not. So I look forward to the debate. I look forward to the vote.
Forward a little bit.
If we take back the House and the Senate, I can assure you we'll have a vote on our bill. If the Democrats are in charge, I don't know if we'll ever have a vote on our bill.
Remember that, okay?
If we take back the House and the Senate, I can assure you we'll have a vote on our bill. If the Democrats are in charge, I don't know if we'll ever have a vote on our bill.
Remember that, okay? That should be a in like every single Democratic ad running in all 50 states, okay? All of them. All of them should have this in their ads. Every single last one of them. And if they don't, I will I'm gonna be angry. I'm gonna be a little angry because that is a horrible thing to say. It's a great thing for Democrats in the sense of I'm glad that he's admitting it, that we can actually say it so we don't have to do any inference, even though doing inference on what Republicans will do isn't that hard. Just find the worst possible position that you can take to your average human being, and that's probably what Republicans believe. So in the very beginning of this, we were able to catch Lindsey Graham in a lie. But like I said, the lies are going to get worse. They are going to get worse. And I'd like to show you something now, which is how bad it's become with these lies. So this is something that a lot of conservatives use specifically to talk about abortion in America and how it should be even stricter because they cannot read. Reading has never been their strong suit. I'm not sure if they're illiterate or just lying. If I'm going to be honest, it doesn't necessarily matter. But with that being said, I would like to talk about something that's really important, which is another big lie. And you may come across it as well when you're talking to people about this issue. And I want you to be able to debunk it. So please pay attention. Here's a little bit of the chart that I was looking for earlier. But here's the chart that Lindsey Graham was using to talk about how other countries have bans on abortion, and how he says that his abortion is actually more liberal than a decent amount of Europe and other countries that he thinks that other lefties like to point to as good countries. But basically, do you remember the talking point that a lot of conservatives used when we talked about the Norwegian model when it comes to economics, and how a lot of Norwegian countries, especially Sweden, don't have a minimum wage, and that's why they argue why we shouldn't have a minimum wage. But the problem is we have unions, and so that's why they don't need a minimum wage, because they have a nicer form of capitalism, and so there's no need for the government to step in, because their corporations, it's much harder for them to step in and grind their workers to dust. They're doing a similar thing here, and it's a very sneaky little trick, and I would like to tell it, and I would like to debunk it now. There is some truth, there's half truth to this, that there are abortion bans, and this is real. France, Denmark, and Norway does have a 12-week abortion limit. And Belgium, Germany, and Spain do have a 14-week abortion limit. But the problem is that these laws are more nuanced and more understanding and better than any law a conservative has ever attempted to pass in the last 50 years in this country. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Because the story for why these abortion limits are not correct, you have to dig a little bit deeper. And there was a really interesting blog post that was written about this, but I'll back this up with some more actual facts here in a moment. But a lot of conservatives talk about this, right? Worth noting that it's still slightly later than most European countries. Glenn Youngkin proposed 15-week abortion ban and says that it's the standard in Europe. Incredible to see Democrats freaking out about Florida's 15-week ban, even though most of Europe does it. Youngkin's position is supported by most of Europe. Listen, Europe does it, and then they also cite this poll or whatever, right? A lot of people talk about this. Today I learned Europe has more restrictive abortion laws than most of the US did up until this week. And I'm not going to lie to you. When I was a little bit more of a dummy boy, this position, I actually fell for it a little bit. But once again, when you want to figure out whether a conservative is lying, all you need to do is figure out when they are speaking, because this is not true. And we need to dig a little bit deeper, okay? So this is not an abortion ban. They're gestation cutoffs, all right? And it's different. The U.S., by allowing a 24-week abortion cutoff, limiting it to 20 or 22 weeks in certain states, was indeed more liberal than other countries, specifically on this basis. The gestation cutoff is an attractive measure of access because of its simplicity. But the simplicity can also be misleading for multiple reasons, right? And one really big thing is because of access. In 1973, 8 in 10 abortions happened in hospitals, but today, 9 in 10 happen in clinics, because what happened is a lot of conservative states passed laws barring a lot of doctors from being able to perform medical procedures, and specifically this one, and so it had to be pushed to other clinics that had to get special licenses and jump through special hoops and pay special fines and pay special licensing to get this done, to make everything more and more and more and more and more expensive. They had to go through specific rules and trainings and all of these certain things, and they closed down as many as possible to make it more and more expensive, to stop and more restrictive and less accessible for you to be able to get these done. And so and this is a really interesting point that I didn't know of, but before, things like trap laws that caught up a lot of abortion clinics. Look how sparse abortion clinics are in conservative states, right? In some where they were really hard on it, some of red states like Mississippi, are Kansas, in Kansas, like Nebraska, South and North Dakota, Wyoming, and Kentucky, in West Virginia, they only had one abortion clinic because by law they had to have at least one. So they said, we're only going to have one, and we're going to hunt them down until we had one. And so on average, women in 26 states had to travel more than half of 1,000 miles, 500 miles, 500 plus miles to get an abortion. That's not the same in Europe, for one. And that's really important, okay? Trap laws as well. Separation between hospitals and clinics was also enabled anti-abortion regulators to impose burdens on abortion providers that they did not apply to health providers. Thus, the isolation of abortion clinics began targeted regulation of abortion providers, or literal trap laws. Literally what they called it was fucking trap laws that made it infeasible for clinics to operate. And that's why things like Planned Parenthood and other like abortion donation drives were a thing, because it was conservatives were making it as hard as possible for these people to be able to operate, and sometimes they wanted to make it near impossible to operate to the point where you needed outside funding to be able to get any of this stuff done, right? And that's horribly disgusting. Nobody should have to go through like medical procedures, life-saving medical procedures sometimes that's this difficult to get your hands on. But the most damning of the lies that people like Lindsey Graham are telling are specifically on the gestation. Shut the heck up, Adobe. I'm talking. One of the most damning lies is the gestation cutoff that they like to talk about. All right. First off, the cutoff point is not representative of the actual practice when it comes to when abortions occur. Just 1% of abortions in the US occur after the 20-week point, and 91% occur before 13 weeks. So why allow late and rarely used cutoff? Women are most likely to select an abortion at that point because the health risk for themselves or the fetus. Having the option is important for women who are forced to make hard choices. Just because something is not common does not mean it should not be allowed, okay? What they're doing is when they talk about the things that are the most common, those are the least threatening and least dangerous situations. That's why they're so common. When they don't happen that often, it's not because they were sitting at home like smoking weed and smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol and doing one after the other and one after the other and falling down the stairs to like freaking like Beyblade, let it rip, spin the baby around in the fucking uterus to fucking torture it for fun, and then wait until the moment before their water's about to break to abort them, and then like fucking chuck the biohazard bag into the incinerator. Okay, that's not why those things happened. It's because the life of the fetus and the viability of the fetus, or the viability of the person's life who's carrying the fetus, was in jeopardy. Okay. And so that's why that's important. But I want you to take a look at this, because this is incredibly interesting. Second, in other countries, the gestation cutoff is far more flexible than it appears. A legal brief talked about this. Looking at abortion laws in their broader context reveals that comparable countries in which on their face set shorter abortion term limits for access than in the United States often provide greater flexibility in obtaining abortions after those limits pass, with exceptions of a broad range of circumstances. And let's talk about even Germany's 12-week limit. And so it does have a 12-week limit, but exceptions include, from the pregnant person's point of view, an abortion is necessary to avert danger to the life or grave injury to the mental or physical health of the pregnant person, taking into account her present and future life conditions. And so this is incredibly interesting how they say that this limit is similar to their limit, but in these Republican bills that they push, they are nowhere near as flexible as this, to bring in your future that child has to go through, that your mental state, your physical state, grave injury or distress, your death, all of these things that conservatives don't want you to be able to make decisions on whether or not you need them or not, these countries allow you to do. I think that completely invalidates this sort of, these are the same things. Because does Lindsey Graham's bill hold these certain things? No, They don't. Is it this bill? No, it's not. Not at all. And that's why women in and people who can get pregnant in Europe don't push for less strict abortion bans, because they don't need them. That's why people in Sweden don't push for a minimum wage. They don't need them. People take consideration here. They care about the actual well-being and not simply to punish women for being raped. All right? And that's what a lot of these laws come down to. And they don't care at all about when these children come up into the world and the life that they have to be forced to live for the next God knows how many decades that they're going to be in the world, if they make it that long. Because for families that are poor, they have a far greater chance of having, for experiencing things like fetal death and death when you're much younger, because they have little to no access to things like healthcare. So if there's a problem, you're less likely to be able to get it done. This is what's happening, okay? And so all of this on top of itself makes this completely crumble. This is not real, okay? It's not true. And this has been written about a lot of times. Even in The Atlantic, they have an article about it, the myth of America's abortion laws that are more permissive than Europe's. By making a false comparison, GOP hopes to cushion the political fallout of Roe's demise. This has been written about before. It is true. This is real. You can look it up yourself. You can read through this article yourself. I don't need to read through it now. You know it exists. And if you need to fact check me on that, if you feel like it, you can go ahead and do that yourself. Right? And that's a really important thing. Now, with that being said, we're going to make a cut here and we're going to go back to this woman that we talked about before. All right? This woman that we talked about before, that while they were talking about limiting access to abortion, this woman seemed far too happy about this entire situation, and far too enthusiastic about the idea of making 13-year-olds give birth. Quite a curious situation.
I want to thank Senator Graham for introducing this life-affirming legislation, and note how favorably it contrasts with pro-abortion bills in the House and in the Senate.
So the abortion bills that the Democrats have been talking about is a great bill. Basically what the bill does is it doesn't put the life of the mother and like actual medical practice into the hands of dipshit, stupid, QAnon pilled, insane, brainworm, disgusting heathens and barbarians and Neanderthals that conservatives are. It puts it in the hands of doctors and the patient and the family that needs to make the real decision on how their life should be taken, and things along those lines, right? That's the important thing. And what the bill did basically said, if doctors think that this is something that should be done, then it should be done. A wild standard for medical practice. Isn't that right? So the person who spent their entire lives doing a single profession to be like the best in the world at it compared to anyone else in the medical profession, all right? And not even the specific thing as in like being in health, being specifically in reproductive health and being specifically in abortion and like gestation health. This person should be the only person along with the patient to make the decision about whether or not abortion should be made. Wild, is it not? With that being said, that bill basically said, yeah, if both of them, you know, the two people who actually matter in the discussion, agree that this should be done, then it should be done. Simple as. It's a wild standard. It's a wild standard. Now, I wanted to look into this lady a little bit, all right? And I found something incredibly curious because she is a Fox News commentator as well. She comes onto Fox News to talk about a range of deranged shit that conservatives love to do. And this, by far, is one of the most wacky, insane black people I've seen in a while, okay? Even worse than Diamond and Silk, because she had this to say when it came to the Confederate flag. Confederate flag and LGBTQ pride flag represent the same exact thing. Truly a wild, mind-blowing, absolutely incoherent position to hold. It truly is an absolutely wacky thing. Now, unfortunately, this clip, as far as I know, is not available anymore. This is a much older article. It's from 2017. This was from Fox and Friends, but we still have a little bit of a transcript here for us to read for exactly what she said. What do you think about House Minority Leader, and this is obviously back before the 2018 election, who made the statement yesterday, it shouldn't take the president 2 days to summon the basic decency to condemn violence by Nazis and white supremacists. So yeah, they're talking about Charlottesville. And then she says, that's not what happened. Nancy Pelosi is exploiting an opportunity that they think will play on their side. On Saturday, there were two sides in an American city that were, then it was escalating very rapidly. No, the question then became, well, do you denounce one part of it? But you know what's really interesting and really incredible irony here is the same people that are demanding the Confederate flag come down are the same people insisting that the rainbow flag goes up. This is the type of line that you think sounds really cool in your head, and right before you say it, you like read it back to yourself in your head, and sometimes you'll say it out loud like in the shower, and it sounds super cool and super badass, but this is dipshit behavior. Right? What do you think, chat? Is this dipshit behavior? This is dipshit behavior. This is low IQ behavior, okay? This woman, by herself, this sheer weight of her stupidity is what's holding down the black IQ from still being on average one standard deviation lower than our white counterparts, okay? This woman is who's doing it, okay? Her, Jay-Z, all of this type of shit, all of them are doing this. This is mind-blowing stupidity, okay? And I wish your ancestors were still awake, were still around, okay? I wish we lived in a world where, like, when you go to sleep, that your ancestors that they get jumped by their ancestors, okay? That they can just beat their ass until they're awake, all right? I wish it was like, what's that shit in Naruto where you can be placed in like a world of suffering for like a minute, but then it feels like a couple of days, Yeah, genjutsu. Yeah, I wish that they could be put in a fucking ass whooping genjutsu, okay? So they can understand the wrong of their ways. Slave drivers are the same as gay people. Now, I have to tell you, the gap closes in severity when they're both white. but listen, in all seriousness, your average white gay person, your average white gay boy, the likelihood of him being racist is also high, but not Confederate racist, okay? Let's be honest with ourselves. Confederate racist and white gay boy racist are two very different things, all right? There are two very different things. Both racist, both bad, not the same, all right? One literally wants you to be raped, murdered, and tortured for money, and the other one just thinks that your skin color is weird and will ask you if like that like lipstick is really a good color for people who look like you, okay, and who don't want to have sex with you because they watch too much porn or something, okay, or they didn't, all right, and who like fetishize you. That's different. That is far different. You are insane. These two flags represent the exact same thing. No, they do not. No, they do not. All right. That certain people and groups are not welcome here. I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna lose it. I'm losing my mind. I'm gonna lose it, bro. I'm gonna have a Joker moment. If you see a pride flag and you don't think you're welcome there, that's a you problem. That's your fault. You're the homophobic one. You're fine. Everyone was fine. Nobody's asking you. Nobody's asking you if you're like a straight dude and you enter the gayborhood. All right, you don't have to suck cock as your ticket to come in. Okay, you don't have to take a shot glass full of the boys' cum to be able to walk the streets. It's okay. You're fine. You don't have to. There's not going to be like a guy in like spandex, okay, that's skin tight and far too tight than it should be, revealing far too much skin, and he's far too furry, who's going to walk around with a fucking potato gun and who's going to combat roll behind you and but instead of it being filled with potato, it's backloaded with a fucking a dildo, all right, and he shoots it straight up your ass, all right, and that's not going to happen. You don't have to walk around like that. It's not gonna fly in your ass. It's not going to happen. All right? I promise you, it's okay. I've been around gay people. They're mostly fine. Sometimes they're not, but not everybody is okay all the time. A lot of the times they're fine. And you know what? When they're not fine, you can just walk away. It's not that hard. It really isn't. That's not going to happen when you're in the gayborhood, I promise. You'll be okay. They're not going to be pounding your they're not going to be pounding your prostate, I promise, okay? It's not going to be ground to dust. Your root chakra is going to be fine. I don't understand. The only reason why you don't think that you're welcome here is simply because you're homophobic. And you don't think that you're welcome where gay people are allowed to exist because you're fucking homophobic. I'm sorry. So Nancy Pelosi says that they're going to start shutting down America First rights of a certain group of people. Then what happens the next time the homosexuals want to walk through an American city and protest on the and protest and counter protesters show up? Holy I didn't even I read this like a day or two ago when I was setting up this in particular thing, because I've heard about this woman before, but I was like looking through to figure out exactly like what shit that she said, because I knew that she was wacky. Okay, I've heard people say it before, but good Lord, is she threatening gay people? Huh? You don't think? And I love how it's gone from Confederate flag to America First and just First Amendment. Wild. Weird how that works out, right? Huh? You're gonna shut down First Amendment rights? Well, you homosexuals better lock your doors at night. What the hell? This is the type of people that Lindsey Graham surrounds himself with. These are the types of people. They are bad people. They are bad human beings. I didn't talk about it as much in the last couple of videos, but I would like to implore you. Vote, stinky. Some of you turned 18 not too long ago. Vote. Some of you haven't voted before. Fuck you. Vote. Some of you don't want to vote. I don't care. Die. But before you die, vote first, okay? Because we don't live in different worlds. Maybe like theoretically or mentally we do, but physically we're in the same world and we suffer the same laws and we're under the same jurisdiction of the state. And that state should not be governed by these people. I don't like the Democrats. If I could not be a Democrat, I'd not be one, okay? But the problem is I have to do something to protect the people who I care most about. And even the people who I don't even know, I would like to do something. You can't call yourself a leftist. You can't call yourself a progressive. If you don't do something about these people, you're not going to be able to build your dual power structure. They're going to come by and kick over your shitty little commie sandcastle once they get the opportunity to. You think that they're not going to do that. You are out of your mind. You are out of your mind. These are not the Democrats. They are not. The left and the right, when it comes to the political parties, are not comparable. These people are so fundamentally, astronomically worse. I will 100% take somebody who is unskilled, stupid, and uncaring than somebody who is actively, maliciously trying to harm me. And if it's not you, it's somebody else. It's someone that you know, or it's your comrade, or it's not somebody, or it's someone you hate. And I don't care. It doesn't matter. Being a leftist is not liking people you like and disliking people you don't. It's that last time I checked, I don't think Marx wrote about how capitalism should be undone, but only for the people who I think are super pog and who are invited to my birthday party. Fuck you. Vote. You need to do that. If you haven't done it yet, do it now. There's no need to feel guilty, all right? Or to feel like you did something wrong, because there's always the next election that you can do it. Okay, there are repercussions to you not doing it in the past, but you can overcome that and you can make the world a better place by doing it in the future. And I'm not saying spend all your time just worrying about electoral politics. We care about this shit like for a couple of months, once every 2 years. All right, that's it. That's all I'm telling you to do. Give this your attention once for every 2 years, a weekend, once every 2 years. That's it. That's literally it, okay? And then you can go back to posting about your shitty theory written by dead white people 400 years ago, okay? And I promise you that you'll have all the time you need to do that. But while you're waiting in line to do that, take some time to vote, okay? It's vitally important. We can get all of these abortion referendums, abortion laws that have been passed by red states that force children 10-year-olds to give birth. All of that can be undone in months if the Democrats are able to hold the Senate and the House. That's something that can actually happen. That's within our grasp. What's also in our grasp is being able to put more progressives in office, to be able to get more people thinking about leftism. All of that is very important. But at this moment in time, what you need to make sure that you do is not only you vote, get as many people as you know, your comrades out to vote, your friends out to vote who haven't voted before. Just tell them, if they're even not super invested, just say, bro, it's important. Make a heartfelt message to them and be like, please, it's very important to me. And you can all go for a weekend and you can vote. And when you do that, you take up their fucking time. You can all you can then go treat them to some McDonald's or something afterwards. And you can buy them some McDonald's, okay? Buy the crew some McDonald's. There you go. Okay? But this is important to happen because these people should not be allowed to run the country. They should be nowhere near the levers of power in any place, whether that be fucking dog catcher or senator or president. None of them. Absolutely none of them.